I saw Pushpa 2 for the second time, and I need to vent this out with all of you. While the film is breaking all kinds of records with its box office collections, I really wanted to dissect what transpired with this film and how did a perfectly entertaining sequel that had all the potential to be a knockout eventually transition to become an overkill with its screenplay, where its main character became bigger than the story. As you can see in the title, the video is going to feature spoilers and we will discuss everything in chronological order. Everything from the character's motivations, cinematography, Sukumar's screenplay, and eventually what absolutely disconnected me with the film. So let's break it down. The most contentious aspect of this movie that is being discussed the most is actually the very first scene. This is in regards to Pushpa's antics in Japan. If you remember seeing the trailer, there were several shots which made us assume that the Red Sandalwood Syndicate is going to go to international waters and that Pushpa is going to strike some deal in order to further widen his network. However, many of these frames did not make it into the film. What becomes clear with the sandalwood falling from a container and Pushpa being hung upside down only for an action set piece to take place between him and these Japanese henchmen wielding swords is that in a vacuum, it seems like a good mass action set piece and nothing more. When you especially see the content of what is being discussed, Pushpa referencing a payment that has not been made to him, reminiscent of how obsessive, say, Rocky Bhai was for even a single coin, so much so that he blows up a police station in return for the same. Here we have Pushpa spending 42 days in a container, 20 of which he has spent learning Japanese, by the way. Now, I don't know what containers and fancy lighting is there, but I'm sure the book may have been in Braille or something, and Pushpa might have added this to his skill set somewhere in his timeline. I digress. The point is that it makes you assume that this sequence is going to give us further context about how he landed up here in the first place, and even in the slightest, where this is going. You've got the main character conversing in Japanese, a random sous chef at the port played by Satya who acts as a translator, and a really forced nationalism integration as Pushpa sings Phir bhi dil hai Hindustani and Shiva says Jai Hind. In this action set piece, which initially looked exciting when it's grounded in nature, it weirdly transitions to become over the top wire work that just does not pack in the punch, with slow motion shots of Allu Arjun literally flying and throwing around goons, only to be eventually shot and fall in the ocean. This immediately ties into a traumatic event for him as a child, as he was drowning while recovering a ball for friends who deliberately made him jump, knowing very well he can't swim. Pushpa wakes up from this trauma, so the viewer thinks that he's had a bad nightmare from what happened to him as a child. But what about the Japan chapter? Was he actually there? Was it just a dream? And theories are afloat that it was intended to be a teaser for part 3, and this is where I call BS. The sequence, in my opinion, is a part of a story which has actually been abandoned, a part which has been altered for Pushpa Part 2, because it may have been something else, but because the makers may have felt or believed that the original introduction of Pushpa is not massy enough, a character of this aura needs to have an introduction action set piece, and this Japan action set piece has been forced into the screenplay because there is literally no mention or context of it ever again. So the optimists may like to believe that it was a tease for part 3, but I genuinely believe it's been added just to present a stylish intro for the hero, by the way, which already exists in the film and is far superior than the Japan port sequence. This is the nature of the hasty and random screenplay of Sukumar, where episodes have been created rather than having a unified linear theme. If the Japan port sequence was actually a part of Part 3, The Rampage, it would have been way more effective as a glimpse in the cliffhanger versus just a random introduction. If you actually see the film very closely, its introduction is actually from the scene in which Bhavar Singh Shekhawat is in disguise with the red sandalwood labourers. This is how the film should have actually started, and it's a brilliant commencement of the story because it starts with an angry and vengeful antagonist who has been shamed and ridiculed and is willing to do anything to ruin our hero. That's the start of the film, which is also crystal clear because literally the opening credits start rolling as we see Bhavar Singh Shekhawat be amongst the laborers who go into the jungle to cut red sandalwood. This is where the cinematography of Miroslav Kuba especially shines. The wide expanse of the forest with the grey overcast, torrential rain, it puts into perspective the magnitude and scale of the business. Fahad obviously exposes them and locks them behind bars. A brilliant start to the film, following by an insight into the familial conflict where Ajay, playing the role of Molleti Mohan Raj, Pushpa's half-brother, gets on my nerves from the word go. A man who can't let go for just shaming Pushpa's family and the fact that they don't have a last name. I don't know why the makers had to overcompensate with the port action scene, because the introduction of Allu Arjun as he wants to get a laborer out of jail with that backlit walk up the stairs in the police station is 10 times more badass than what we saw in the film. This police sequence as he calls out the hypocrisy of the policemen and buys them out showcases his influence and swagger in a way more effective manner. This is where Pushpa also realizes that his men have been beaten up, compelling him to get all of them out. I want you to remember this scene because it in flashbacks provides us a glimpse of Bhavar Singh Shekhawat ruthlessly torturing the laborers. This is the Bhavar Singh that we left part 1 with, having no moral compass, no empathy, and being an absolute savage. This is the man we thought to be worthy of being an antagonist against Pushpa, not what he eventually became in the second half. This is where a shot of the film from the trailer has been actually cut, where he is enjoying music on a tape recorder while the laborers are being beaten up. That's Bhavar Singh, a guy who jams to music while wailings of the tortured echoes in the background. You see how I describe it? It's way more ruthless than just a funny, bumbling random villain. I found it a funny aspect of the film on how it pre-announces its songs. Fahad in rhythm singing Pushpa, 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 like the song, and all the characters foreshadowing kissing too. I actually found the banter between Pushpa and Srivali to be quite cute in this film. I said in my review that Rashmika's character is constantly horny and people took it as a diss. It's true, she gets turned on with the slightest touch in this film. It is over the top, but what I like is how much Pushpa admires her, tends to her nook joke, actually listens and respects her. They might be clinging on to each other to the point of devouring one another, but that isn't the slightest bit of an issue for me. The issue only comes when you present your husband to be this holier than thou character, and I'll expand a little later on that. The main plot of the film is actually explored in the first 40 minutes. Srivali wanting a photograph of Pushpa with the CM so that she can show it off to the public. Imagine if the CM just said yes. We wouldn't even have a film, because the entire plot of the movie beyond Pushpa versus Bhavar Singh is a man's ego getting hurt that he did not get a photo. Less that actually, and more of what he said about his wife, that those who listen to their wife do not go ahead in their life. And this is why the plot begins of Siddhappa's quest to become CM with Pushpa's 500 crore funding. This is where the Reddy duo is introduced, one being in the central ministry and the other working on the field. This is where, now in retrospect I believe, Sukumar should have introduced or implied the existence of a third Reddy. Not just throw him in the film randomly harassing a girl, but us understanding that there may be a possible threat of a deadbeat druggie of influence, and not keeping it way later in the film to information dump on the random new villain. More on this later, but Pushpa makes a solid impression with his money-covered couches and finds himself in the Maldives opposite Saurabh Sajdev, who sports the most over-the-top Arabic accent, by the way, which just reminds me of Aakhri Pasta. Yahan to hamara dog bhi nahi baiti, 100 crore ka deal karti. I mean, come on. But I must say, Pushpa flexing his influence with the dealers was a badass scene, especially on how he leaves the meeting and the preparation begins for the huge consignment to be delivered on foreign land. Mind you, this is still when the film is focused on its screenplay and builds on the animosity and hatred between Bhavar Singh and Pushpa. The family angle for a long time is abandoned. It's not consistent, and that's the biggest disconnection that audiences felt, because new angles are thrown at our faces versus actually actually seeming like an organic progression. Some more flirting between the married couple continues, a terribly choreographed song like Peelings follows, and this is where I just want to tell you the distinction between sensual and vulgar. See the new amazing video dropped by Sunidhi Chauhan featuring Sania Malhotra. Its intention is to execute a choreography. It's sexy and mindful of looking aesthetic, whereas Peelings is just random groping, biting and nichodoing as an excuse for a choreography. There is literally a point where both of them are wrestling like the old mud matches of WWF, and one time Rashmika literally takes the shape of becoming Betal while executing the hook step. It's not well done. Can we both be on the same page here? How are we defending Peelings as some artistic gem? As you know, Bhavar Singh Shekhawat and how obsessed he is with causing the downfall of Pushpa, what do you think he will be doing at this point? While this huge consignment is being transported, he is found randomly sleeping with a prostitute, and it takes Srinu's wife to influence him to pursue the case, as he, like a cartoon, tries to find his pants. This is the Bhavar Singh I do not know. He does not need to be influenced. He is unhinged and obsessed with Pushpa. He'll do everything in his might to stop him. This, in contrast, is a clown. And then, like whiplash this film's screenplay gives you, you are introduced to Bhavar Singh Shekhawat causing havoc on a bridge, burning sandalwood for fun and throwing syndicate members off bridges. More of this, please. And not some weird comedy integration by Fahad in portions. Seems like Ranga on an off day. This of course causes chaos within the syndicate, wanting to sort the ego battle between Pushpa and Bhavar. You quickly realize why this film is so entertaining, because Bhavar Singh's irritation is not how Pushpa is circumventing the law, but how he disrespected him and disrobed him. A brilliant scene acted by Rao Ramesh where he tries to play umpire, willing to embarrass himself in the process, and it's decided that Pushpa will say sorry publicly and mark the end with this feud, resulting in the best scene of the film, the interval block. Pushpa, drunk out of his mind, arriving to the party, apologizing, the petty nature of Bhavar Singh recording the same, the dilemma within Pushpa while leaving, changing his mind, only to showcase the worst sign of disrespect, literally peeing in all of his glory on Bhavar Singh. I mean, technically in the pool that he was in. The scene was so entertaining that there was deafening whistles and cheers in theatres. The shock in Fahad's face, the nonchalance showcased by Pushpa, and the challenge to stop his consignment from reaching Chennai. This is the point where I was actually sitting on my seat and thinking, they've done it. Sukumar has actually done it. I love this pulpy commercial film. This is bloody entertaining. Please, more of this. This is where I also must commend Sam CS's background score that really invigorates the sequence. I know there are contentious arguments about who actually composed the score, but Sam CS apparently claims to have done 90% of it, and I must say he really killed it. This is where I felt the film was perfect, as the ego tussle between two characters, much like what you remember between Prithvi Raj and Biju Menon in the celebrated 2020 Malayalam film. Just pure hatred for each other. But what headless chicken took over after the interval is my real question. Mind you, we still do not focus on the family conflict. It came and went. It's not a consistent theme of the film. We are still focused on the feud, so stop arguing that the core of Pushpa was his sense of identity and family, because the screenplay itself doesn't focus on it or give it its deserved attention. Moving on, I must say from a technical point of view, barring the dance performance by Allu Arjun in the Jatra, the cinematography and editing of the sandalwood being transported through the river looked spectacular. The urgency of Bhavar Singh to catch them, blowing truck after truck, feeling proud of himself was a brilliantly executed sequence. This is when the gimmicky transition of Fahad Fasil as an antagonist takes shape. Shocked that he has been duped by Pushpa, having confiscated inferior wood and jumping around while he trash talks in sign language with him. Throughout, Fahad almost takes the approach of overdoing the comedy through his physicality, making the ruthless and unpredictable Bhavar Singh to be straight out of a David Dhawan film. Irrespective of how the tonality of his portrayal was, imagine the concluding moments of Pushpa 1 and Pushpa 2 till the half point of its second half, focusing on precisely this. And now guess what? We're just going to shit all over it. So how do we do that? We make sure Allu Arjun gets the news that Srivalli is pregnant. Beautiful scene, right? Only for him to perform the most intense dance number that had me clapping even in the second viewing. A penance in the form of Ma Kali, hoping and praying that he gets the one wish that his progeny be a daughter, just so that she can have the luxury of being associated with the family name one day. It's a beautiful scene, acted and choreographed and performed brilliantly by especially Allu Arjun. But how do we take this holy, intense ode to God and make it trivial? By making the couple dance on Sami Sami, with Allu Arjun having the same goddess Kali getup. I can't tell you how misplaced and odd it looked for a hero to pay tribute to God, for you to be so mesmerized by a performance only for it to follow up with a generic romantic number. It actually ruined the impact of Allu Arjun's majestic performance. This is where the film introduces us randomly, and I use this word especially, randomly, to Baggi Reddy, Jagapati Babu's nephew, who is harassing Pushpa's niece, only for more money shots and wire work to follow, and for us to believe now randomly that this film is going to shift focus on the family conflict. Annoyingly, the elder half-brother making sure Pushpa still knows he is not welcome in their family despite protecting the honor of his daughter. Bloody liability as a father still throwing attitude. Irrespective, what I do love in the scene as Rashmika sings praises for her husband, which I have to sadly tell you for me personally, just does not pack in the punch, maybe because of the Hindi dub. But to present the husband as this demigod that holds the respect of everyone for a moment will make you confused and hope that Srivalli knows that she's married to a criminal, right? It's not the dynamic of Srivalli and Pushpa that I have a problem with, but this whitewashing of him being this giving righteous man, which is far from the truth. We get this random family drama scene and are introduced back to the cat and mouse chase as the sandalwood has reached Chennai. I think this is the biggest problem regarding the frustration the audience had with this film. This is something that Hendol from Chalchitra mentioned in one of my comments, that the two storylines of Pushpa are carried out in parallel fashion versus something like Agnipath, where the core focus of the villain being Kancha and what he did to Vijay's family never goes out of sight. The consistent need for Vijay to drop a gift for his sister on her birthday, pretending to be a delivery boy, the lack of love showered by his own mother towards him for his choices, not realizing it's all geared towards the trauma he still endures for what transpired with his father. Even the subplot of Rauf Lala is an organic progression of a man going up the ranks, only to notice his sister that he raised to be sold off by the man that guided him. This contrasting agony is what leads Vijay to save the honor of his sister and reuniting in a beautiful scene like Abhi Mujh Mein Kahin, the heart which goes missing in Pushpa because of the random parallel fashion of both the stories. The relationship between Pushpa and his niece is nothing beyond the niece just shouting cha-cha, cha-cha randomly. We need to feel why Pushpa, beyond the relationship of blood, feels compelled to go above and beyond for her. This is, I think, the main problem in the emotional disconnect we feel as viewers. Of course, Bhavar Singh is duped, the red sandalwood is in Sri Lanka, the money is received by Pushpa, the MLAs receive their couches, Siddhappa is the new CM, and Srivalli finally gets the photo she always wanted to be in her living room. But hey, we have to do one more random dance number as our hero grinds on the dancing girl as his pregnant wife excitedly watches. Legitimately, some people left the theatre during Kisik, assuming that the film is over and all is resolved. Bhavar Singh realizes that he can cover his tracks by burning the fake wood because it can't be distinguished, and either blows himself up or ensures that he's safe. We don't know whether Bhavar Singh is alive. What do you think? Do you think it can be the case of not being able to show his face to the public with the embarrassment, so he would rather die? He is that psychotic, so I wouldn't blame him. This is where the storyline should have ended. If you want to integrate a forced third installment, might as well do it now. No. But this is where we go in full overkill mode, because we don't only want Pushpa to receive familial closure, but also want to present him in another mass action scene, because we haven't already presented him as a demigod. A threat is sent live on TV because the niece is abducted, Rappa Rappa Katunga follows, and the new random Reddy villain wants 10 crores, but also wants to embarrass Pushpa the way he did to him and his friends in the Jatra gathering. This is where the age-old trope of using a woman's honor as a means to project the hero as this savior is integrated, and this is where elevation after elevation is forced down our throat. A random goon comes and straight up goes Jim Ross WWE hype mode. तुम जानते हो तुम किसके सामने खड़े हो, पूरी स्टेट अपनी पकड़ में रखता है, जानते हो ये कितना खतरनाक है, अपनी चिता खुद ही सजा रहे हो, इसकी सांसें चल रही हैं, आखिरी सांस में भी हमारी सांसें रोक देगा. I mean, come on, we know Pushpa is a badass. Don't keep on reminding us constantly. This climax action set piece is where I completely disconnected, because I love the energy channelized by Allu Arjun, but the wire work and choreography is him literally flying in the air like Edward Cullen in every direction, versus there being a coherence in the action. What I do love consistently in this film, and I will say this forever, is Allu Arjun's dedication to the role. You should really see his expressions when resisting emotions, pent up, slowly simmering as one is embarrassed by the chief minister and compelled to apologize to a man he hates, only for him to finally get the warmth of family in the end and it all coming out. Allu Arjun crying while surrounded by his family is a beautiful scene, and I with all my heart may hate his half-elder brother, but my god did Allu Arjun absolutely kill it. The film, not so much, because screw this wannabe integration for a third part, this makeshift LCU logo type thing of gangs, an explosion carried out by a man with a half-burnt hand, and for all of us to assume that they blew up Pushpa and his entire family, only to reveal that the promo that we saw years ago actually was a trailer for part 3 Rampage. The closure and beautiful moment of their baby kicking in the tummy was enough for us to smile. There is no need for this saga to be extended further and carry on till the point where even die-hard fans of this franchise may get tired of it. As I previously said, kudos to Allu Arjun for leaving no stone unturned, but this dip in this film's storytelling from the first half to the second half really broke my heart, making all of it really a mid-experience versus the paisa vasool blockbuster I wanted it to be. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below your thoughts. This is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion, so please write down your thoughts in the comments below. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.